A little bit of time has passed now since the M3 sold, and I did my what comes next video, which I did before the car went. So I thought an update could be in order on what I'm currently looking at and why. Now, in my what comes next video, when I was driving around the Swedish countryside in the A3 and talking about cars I wanted to own and cars I merely wanted to have, I mentioned a few cars like the Escort Cosworth, the Clio V6 and the C-Class Black Series. And since making that video, I've come to the conclusion that those three cars are really the cars that I want to own, meaning cars that you have in your garage collection and don't part with. There's two problems though with this. The first being I can't afford any of those cars right now. Perhaps the V6, but the other two, especially the Black Series, and it's the W203, so it's the CLK 63 Black Series that I want. They're just out of reach. I mean, the Clio prices have been going up a lot in the past 12 months, especially in Europe, and prices for a 255 Phase 2 car, which is what I want, start from around 50,000 euros, which is around the price of an Escort, and it just feels a little too much for what they are. Now, the reason I said euros and not Swedish SEK or crowns, krona, is I live in Sweden, don't forget. That is the second problem. So these are all rare cars. I mean, they're rare anywhere in the world, but here in Sweden, even more so. You've got a population of just under 10 million people in a country that's twice the size of the UK. The number one car brand here is Volvo, and it used to be Saab, and other brands just aren't as common. And when you add all that up, you have a very small pool of cars to choose from, and they often come up for sale, get sold very quickly, and then disappear for a long time, and then repeat. I was used to the UK, where you're spoilt for choice with cars. So you've got all the forums, but then you have eBay, Auto Trader, Piston Heads, and you've now got a whole host of auction sites popping up everywhere. So there's so many cars to choose from and so many places to choose those cars from. In Sweden, you have some forums, but the main sites I've found for cars are Blocket.se, which is the Swedish answer to Auto Trader, and Racer.nu, which is more of a forum with personal ads attached to it. So in this video, I'm only going to be looking at cars that I found on Blocket, or the block, as they say here in Sweden. Okay, so what do you do when the cars you want to own you can't find and you can't afford? Well, I decided to just have some cars while I wait for the pot to grow and the cars that I want to show up. So to kill time, essentially, and hopefully have some fun in the process. So this approach is something that's new to me, as I normally buy cars and then tune them to my taste, which costs a lot of money and time, and I then sell them at a loss. So for this to work and not take me further away from the cars I want to own, it has to be cars I can afford right now using the M3 money, cars that are interesting to me, fun, cars I can just drive as is without spending money on for, say, 9 to 12 months. I mean, I know I'm going to have to pay insurance and tax, but no other costs apart from that. And most importantly, it's got to be cars that won't go down in value. So what have I come up with? Well, so far, I seem to be focusing my searches on 5 rather different cars. Well, some are different. The first one is the Mark II Ford Focus RS. Now, here's a car that won't lose money, and most of the cars I've found for sale in Sweden are ATM 400 or 450 tuned cars, and they're otherwise mostly stock. So there aren't many around. I think just over 100 in the whole of Sweden. And let's face it, they're going to be fun, right? So it's kind of like my own Megane, but with a Ford badge. Overall, car prices in Sweden are 20 to 35% more than the UK, but the Focus RS is the exception to that, it seems, which is what's drawn me to them. Cars on average cost 210,000 crowns here, which is just under 18 grand. And in the UK, cars of similar spec with similar miles, around 50k miles, are easily in the mid £20,000 mark. So the second car is the SLK 55 AMG. Now, there are slightly more of these available here in Sweden, although most are the earlier spec, so sort of 2005 cars, which are pre-facelift and have the monster size, but unfortunately monster cost, 6-pot front calipers. I've heard nothing but good things about the 55 AMG, and although it might not seem too interesting, being quite understated compared to the other cars here, you can't deny the pull of some German luxury and that hand-built 5.4 litre V8. So don't forget, I'm a sucker for Mercedes too. Now, prices for these cars are solid, ranging from 300 to 350,000 crowns, which is just over 25k, just under 30k. Compared to the UK, prices are around £15,000, so that's almost 100% more expensive here, which makes it kind of painful to consider. The third car on the list is the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 5, or the Tommi Mäkinen Edition 6.5. This car is one that back in the day that really ignited my love for cars. This was when the UK was Sierra Sapphire Cosworths and things like that. Japanese cars hadn't really made an impact, and Gran Turismo was just getting started. And I remember being on the streets of Manchester in the UK late one Saturday night and seeing a gleaming white Evo 5 followed by an equally gleaming white Nissan Silvia with two Jap guys driving the cars, drifting through the city centre. And sadly, the Evo crashed and the guy got arrested. But I've never got over the sight of those cars, especially the Evo. It just blew me away. The problem with these cars is that here in Sweden, JDM cars do have a place, but it seems sort of older JDM models are quite hard to find. So to date, I've only seen one Tommi Mäkinen for sale, and that was quite high mileage, and it was 350,000 crowns, which is just under 30 grand. So probably comparable to the UK. But strangely, there's more Evo 2 and Evo 3 cars here. But although they all seem to be running big power, and most tuned cars in Sweden seem to be bonkers with what the guys have done to them, they all kind of look tired, and most of them look unfinished and have like engines in the boot and things like that. So I guess I'll have to keep my eyes open. The fourth car is the Evo 9 or 10. Now, the thing that has attracted me to these is that some of the cars I've found have been extensively modified, as I mentioned with the earlier Evos. And I like the thought of getting something tuned, given I don't want to spend any money or do anything. I've never considered anything above the TME before. They don't really interest me. But these modified examples I've found seem to be pretty interesting. I've got two examples. So I've got this Evo 10 with a whole host of mods, including wide body kit, carbon parts. It's got a full cage. It's got it's basically a time attack road car, 2.2 litre stroker kit, Alcon brakes, Cusco suspension, more HKS parts that you can possibly list, and it's 540 brake horsepower. That's got to be fun. Sadly, it's sold, but it was priced at 360,000 crowns, which is almost £31,000. Probably a bargain, not so sure. The rest of the Evo 9s and 10s here are a fair bit less than that. There is also this Evo 9 that I found, which is a show car with airlift suspension. So it's bagged, as they say. 2.3 litre stroker kit. It's got massive D2 6-pot brakes up front, 4 pots at the rear. It has a sequential dog box. It's got the IKEA Formula sequential shifter. And it's got the small matter of 580 wheel horsepower. So that's around 630 horsepower probably at the fly, and a whole host of mods again that support the car. It's wide body, carbon fiber everywhere. It looks really interesting. Now, this one I am inquiring about, so we'll see if I get anywhere. I'm a bit concerned though, as it's priced at 400,000 crowns, which is just over 34 grand. And that's with the price reduced. So no wonder it's been for sale forever. If I can't get that for a good price, I will lose money on it, guaranteed. The final car on the list is the Exige S2. I've had one of these maybe 10 years ago now, and although I said I don't revisit cars that I've owned, although I have done that in the past, so I'm lying. I kind of technically haven't had an Exige S2. So let me explain. So the one that I had, it was probably one of the best looking cars that I've owned. It's a true mini GT racer. But unfortunately, I thought I was being clever buying a modified one and saving money. Clearly, I'm not learning that lesson. And my car had an Audi S3 engine swap in it, and it was not done well. So it spent more time dropping fluids on the garage floor than it did being driven on the road. Here in Sweden, as the Exige was never an official imported car, to my knowledge, there's the problem that they're all right-hand drive, which doesn't bother me, but it will affect the resale potential. But at least they are rare cars. There are not a lot of them around. They don't come up that often. So this one I found that I'm actually looking into and talking to the owner has a Comotech 250S supercharger conversion, and it also has the full Reverie wide body kit. So that is, I think it's fiberglass panels, but it's the carbon rear wing, it's a diffuser, it is the front splitter. It's also got some nice goodies inside, like it's got the pro back seats, etc. It's 380,000 crowns, which is just over 32 grand. So it's a bit more than I'd like to take a gamble on. And the paintwork looks a bit rough in places, and the tyres are cheap, which is never a good sign. But maybe seeing it in the flesh could pull me in. I mean, could I leave it alone and not get the paintwork sorted and not buy the Mohican facelift roof panel that I used to have? Doubt it. There have, of course, been other things that have caught my eye, like this Mazda 323 GT-r, which is a rare sight anywhere in the world. I can't believe I found one. I mean, I also found a Pulsar GTI-R here, which is also pretty mad because you don't see them anywhere. But I don't think they're enough for me to truly want to have them in the garage. And same goes for the Skylines and the Supras and things like that, all cars I grew up with. They're just getting too old now, and the prices just don't seem justified for what they are. There's also one final problem, and that's I live on the West Coast, and most cars are in around Stockholm or further north, which, to put it simply, I have to be damn sure of what I want up front before taking a journey across such a long country. So there you have it. Let me know what you think of my choices, and maybe you've got some suggestions for me to add. Thanks for watching, and at some point I hope to do a I bought this video without my head being in my hands would be perfect, but we'll see.